Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're discussing episode 51, The Immortal Legion.
Yes, in this episode, Ed's crew faces a horde of ravenous mannequins, abominations powered by human souls. The twisted creatures aren't the only unstoppable force on the battlefield. Pride, sloth, and envy are on the move.
Yeah, and this covers manga chapters 90, Army of Immortals, 91, A Reunion of Alchemists, and part of 92, With Everyone's Strength.
Let's get into it. So we start off once again where we left off in the last episode. The Immortal army has awakened, and of course it's creepy as usual. It's very much like what we've seen before, and like on Envy's monstrous body and whatever. Like they're all like saying like, "Papa, Mama, it hurts," and like all those. It's just creepy. And then when the one soldier hears them say Papa, he's like, "Yes, I'm your father." And then he gets eaten, which like is coming. I think even the first time we watched this, we were like,
he's dead.
Yeah,
it's the zombie apocalypse. You don't try to talk to them. You just get out of their way.
Yeah, and then like the scientist gets eaten too, and it's like, bro,
run.
Yeah, why are you just standing there?
Yeah,
I never feel bad for the characters that I know, but he could have totally ran while the other guy was getting eaten, because he like stands there shocked, and then they like slowly turn towards him, like he could have gotten away, but
fight or flight was not working for him.
Instead, he tried to fire his gun, and like.
They're an army of immortal
soldiers. Yeah, you
soldiers.
made them. Like, he's given scientists a
so
bad name.
you never feel bad for the scientists whose own creations turn against them.
Not when they just like stand there like idiots. Like, what do I do?
Do you think they could be dangerous? Chump. Oh, okay.
Yes. Anyway, they're mindless and they're not gonna follow orders. They just want to eat. Then we see Ed and his crew arrive at the doors where they're in the room where Lust was killed, and there's like those giant set of doors. And I kind of like this detail. Barry's body was there, still, and Ed makes a very feeble attempt to open the door.
I liked the animation on that. It was cute. It was funny. It's just that in the manga, that moment was very brief, like him just pushing on the door going, "How does it open?" Which makes sense. But in the anime, he's like trying for so long, and I'm like, why doesn't he try to transmute it? Maybe he doesn't know what it's made out of. Maybe that's it, because you need to know the composition of something to transmute it. So that could be why. But it just seems like they lingered on that moment.
He makes a door with like from the room, and like I kind of assumed that the door was made out of. It looked like it was made out of similar material as the rest of the room, but I don't know. He just had like I feel like he just had a brain fart moment. He just forgot about that.
When there's a door already there, why make another one? I guess.
Right. He had just made a door in the last episode, so he was he was
mess
done.
Up our tracking system.
Yeah.
It's already messed up.
Oh yeah, we've been terrible about just keeping track of a lot of things. That's what happens when you have real jobs. Anyway, then the door, it opens on its own, and the Immortal army comes out, and it is terrifying. They're just so creepy and gross. And then we go to Olivier, and she still has one of the soldier that she like stabbed through the arm. She has him as a hostage, and she's tells him to tell his soldiers to call off the Central Forces. And then she does not hold back. She just like stabs the man in the foot, and he's like, "Do what I tell you." But instead he tells them to seal off all the gates so that the Briggs men can't help Mustang's men. But then you see like all the soldiers' faces kind of change, and Olivier looks up and like jumps out of the way, and we see Sloth like come behind and like crushes the soldier, and he's like, "Oh dear, I made a mess." And Olivia, she's so heartless. She's like, "Looks like another seat just opened up at the table." I love her. She was also grateful.
Sardonic, would you say?
Yeah. She was also grateful to Sloth because she didn't have to bloody her sword, which has been passed down the Armstrong line for generations.
She said the line.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And Ed and Scar and the Chimeras they're fighting off the army. And Ed realizes that they're made with human souls. And obviously they can't like kill them, and he makes a door to block the exit so that they can't escape. So he basically like traps them inside. And it's kind of a cool scene because I'm just very, very impressed with Ed's skills. He's like, fighting off the army, and then we see after he seals the doors, the chimeras transform and they're ready to fight. And in the manga, it's like fairly cool because we see them all charge forward and they're ready to go. But in the anime, it's just cursed. Like they, I'll try to like take a screenshot of it and post it because it just like they all look deformed as they.
It was their faces. Sometimes with animation, I notice in crowd scenes the animation gets really fluid, and that's fine. Like even amazingly beautiful shows like Attack on Titan, if you look at background characters, yeah, they have those wonky faces, or sometimes they don't even draw eyes on them. But this was like a moment they could have zoomed in on to really emphasize the action, but their faces were all warped, and I get it. Like fluid animation, I'd say that's used a lot in My Hero Academia, shows like that, where they're always moving, constantly fighting. So it's okay for it to be fluid, but that's more for the in-betweens. This was a scene where they kind of did like a slow-mo zoom in shot. It should have been more detailed and better drawn.
Yeah, it was. I saw that. I was like, that's not Ed and the chimeras. Who is that? It was like
it's odd, not Ed. It's just when you point out something about the animation, I know other people notice it because sometimes I'll notice something like that trailer you showed me the other day about like the jazz anime movie coming out. Like the first thing I noticed is like, oh, they're using CG models for when they're on stage. I don't like that. And you were like, oh, I didn't even notice. And I was like, oh yes, I have to turn off my animator brain for a second and view it as a casual observer. But and then we went to this episode and I didn't even say anything. I was just like keeping quiet, thinking to myself, this looks bad. And you said, oh, this looks terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, not FMA's greatest moment. Well, I'll try to post it. So
yeah. When something like this happens, so like I'm watching Black Clover with our friend Ava right now. When something like this happens, we always say, they're saving the animation budget for the bigger fight scene later. Because that's what they do in Black Clover, is they like save their frames. Sometimes they don't animate the mouth movements because it's like all of our budget went into Asta's big fight with whoever they're facing in this episode.
Yeah, and I think they did do that here.
Yeah.
But let's get to those scenes first.
Yeah.
And then we get just a brief scene seeing what Mustang and the Briggs soldiers are up to. Buccaneer is attacking the Central soldiers, and Mustang's crew, he overhears them, hears the Briggs soldiers attacking, but they are kind of stuck in the forest. They need a way to get into the city because everybody's looking for an ice cream truck. And this is a moment when I saw this, I was like, he's going to transform the truck because we already know that they can do that because we saw Ed do it.
Yeah.
And then Heinkel, he is waiting with Al in the forest. He hears Pride like tapping on the helmet, and he's like, tell him to stop. He's, it's annoying. And then at first he's like, whatever, he's just I guess he's just a kid. But then he like listens for a second, and he realizes that Pride is sending a message in Morse code.
Which apparently Al doesn't know, otherwise he would have.
I
Ed and Al are so smart, and Ed's in the military. I thought they would have known Morse code.
How would they not? Like, I was just surprised that
I mean, they
Al
can't know
didn't
everything.
pick up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like, I don't know Morse code, and if I heard that, it's like a rhythmic, like you would.
I feel like the first time we watched this, we both were like, "That's probably Morse code."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, besides the fact that it's probably a message and you should keep him away from the helmet, I just would have punted that child because that is just so annoying. You're trapped in a small enclosed, well, not small, but like an enclosed space where it's just reverberating and you just hear that thunk, thunk, thunk over and over again. I would be driven up the wall.
Yeah, and it's not like, yes, Al, he doesn't need to sleep or eat or anything, but he can still hear, like, he's not.
And that's his head he's slamming on. Like, what if he dented it?
That too, like, why? And Al's like usually so protective of his body too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering. Surprised.
I mean, like, it's an easy use of, like, objects that they have available, and it makes it more apparent later what he's doing. So the mangaka was probably like, let's set this in motion for when the reveal comes. But I'm wondering if Pride could have done that just by, like, slapping the ground or whatever. Because Father obviously has these sensor things running all through the city.
I don't know. Because I'm not sure if it would be really loud enough or like, distinct enough, I guess, from other forest noises if he was just tapping on the ground.
I suppose he just would have like stumbled his way over to Al's body and just like slammed on his armor a couple times.
Yeah, but then I don't know. This scene like was one where watching it again, I kind of questioned, like, there was a few things I was like, this doesn't quite make sense, but okay.
Whatever. We'll go with it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, Heinkel realizes he is sending a message, and he tells Al to get him to stop, but it's too late because Kimblee has arrived, and he frees Pride and Al. And then we finally get to see May and Envy. Actually, we really finally get to see Envy again.
Little lizard. Envy.
Yeah, little worm Envy. They're fleeing from the mannequin soldiers, and May, I was just so impressed. She's like 11 years old, and she's like pulling out all these moves, like
she's
totally
so
fighting off the
nimble.
Fighting off the soldiers. But then one of the soldiers eats Envy, and then we see, at first you're like, oh no, he's gone, but they were made with Philosopher's Stone, so that's just what he needs to come back to life. So he takes control of that soldier's body and like absorbs all the other soldiers and manages to get his body back.
Yeah. In the manga, it goes down just a tad differently, but Envy escapes from the little glass jar he was in, goes, I'm free, and attaches himself to the soldier's neck and absorbs multiple soldiers and transforms back that way instead of getting eaten. But, so it's same result.
It's same. Yeah, no, that scene in the manga reminded me of, like, we need to watch this together, but I don't think you've seen it. I think it was in Shrek 2, where like there's like a scene where Pinocchio gets turned into a real boy, and he's like, and then like he immediately gets turned back, and he's like, "Aw!" Like it just like reminded me of that, where he's like, "I'm free," and then
it reminded me of that guy from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where he's like, "I'm free," and then falls in like the pit.
Yeah. It's like that. I feel like there's a lot of scenes like that.
It's so sad.
Yeah. But anyway, Envy's back, and I was so happy. I mean, he's a bad guy, but I like him.
Yeah.
And then he's just like laughs maniacally and he's like, I'm alive again.
Yeah, and another manga note, we still get the funny "I'm back" in the manga,
Mm,
but I like the change in the anime where Envy looks like desperately relieved
mm-hmm.
to be alive again. And
Yeah.
why does he only consider himself alive when he's in human form? It's just
Yeah.
like he's
Yeah.
just like touching his face and his hair like I'm alive, you know.
Yeah, I get it. Being a little worm in a jar for months,
Yeah.
like,
And he
yeah, I'd
hates
want my
his
body
true
back
form,
too.
I guess. He hates his
Yeah,
like
yeah.
giant form.
Also, was it just me, or did you notice like in his true form, like it seemed that to me, like there was fewer faces. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know
Animation
if,
budget.
yeah, that was like, was it the animation or was it like,
Well, it didn't
there
look
wasn't
like,
as many souls,
yeah, it didn't look like they were using the CG model this time, so they
Mm-hmm.
probably couldn't have drawn as much detail. So, I mean, he was only there for a split second, really, as the
Yeah.
giant form, so
Yes.
why draw all 10 billion faces?
Also, like in the manga as well, when he's like transforming, he's like coming out of the top of the head, and he
Yeah.
low key like looked like Nina. Like,
Uh-huh. I think that's intentional.
I was like, no, so sad.
Never forget. Never forget.
Yep. Anyways, uh, then we're back in the forest. Pride, um, Kimmy's like, weren't there, was it just you out here? I thought Gluttony was with you. And Pride tells him that, that he ate Gluttony. And Kimblee's like, you ate your brother? And Pride, he's like, yeah, it's not cannibalism because technically we were separated from the main body. Like we're just really have
Yes,
been
but actually,
rejoined.
no.
Yeah, right? I'm like, when he
Gluttony
said
had a
that, I was
soul. I
like,
mean, not a soul, but he had like a personality. So they're
yeah,
separate. They're totally
yeah.
separate.
Like it was kind of, I don't know, that is
You
interesting
say
to
what you
think
need to,
about because
bro, to
like,
justify what you did.
yeah,
But
like technically he is right because it's really
it's
father
father.
separating out the different parts of himself. But you're
Yeah.
right in that they all had their own personalities. So like they were separate entities. I don't know. And then we see Heinkel has been very gravely injured, and of course Al, being his awesome self, tries to, starts to go to him, but Pride grabs him by the leg like, no you don't. And then but then we see like this huge cloud of smoke go up, and Al uses alchemy, and at first Pride is like, yeah, that's not gonna work, but then he like pulls Al's legs, and you see that Al has separated the rest of his body from his legs to escape.
Yeah.
Pretty
That was
awesome.
pretty awesome.
Especially like for him, because Ed is like the only one who can put him back together, and like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like, I assume since it's his legs, he could probably transmute that part of him back on, but that would be difficult.
mm,
So he's willing to lose limbs to save Heikel.
yeah. And then Olivier she's fighting Sloth, who is like swinging these giant chains around. And then she first tries to shoot at him, but as we know, that doesn't work. And then there's also soldiers trying to attack her, but she tricks them, or really tricks Sloth into knocking them out. And then she like grabs a grenade and like pulls the cord with her teeth, which is always like the most epic thing.
You gotta rip it out with your teeth.
Mm-hmm. But Sloth is just too big, too strong, and he like captures Olivia, and he's about to kill her. But then Alex arrives, and he punches Sloth, and he's his normal shirtless self, I guess,
Yes.
could say.
And I loved in the manga when he arrived, both Alex and Olivier have those Armstrong sparkles around them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're safe, sister. well, I didn't need your help, brother. And they're like both sparkling.
Yes, I love it.
They are related.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the final scene, Al is pulling Heinkel to safety. And Heinkel's like, no, you gotta, save yourself. But Al is like, nope, we're not letting anyone. Me and my brother made a promise that we weren't gonna let anybody else get hurt on account of us. And then Heinkel remembers something that Kimblee said, that the true test of winning is survival, and he pulls out the Philosopher's Stone that he got when Ed got injured.
Which he's just been toting around.
Right? He's literally just pocket. Like had it in his pocket for months.
I mean, like with everything going on, it makes sense he would have forgotten about it until Kimblee arrived, and he's like, Kimblee, survival, Philosopher's Stone. Because, I mean, he had that when Ed was injured. He probably, I assume he probably would have talked to Ed about it. But
yeah, and he like doesn't know how to use it, so like he's just
and Ed refused to use it, so he's just like, might as well keep it.
Yeah. And so he gives Al the stone and convinces him to use it. He's basically like, it's made of his arguments that it's made of people who would want to fight for what matter to them, and Al's, using it to protect other people. He's not using it for himself. And then we get this super epic scene where Al, he like appears out of the dust, and we see that he's fixed his legs and he's ready to fight. And Kimblee is very excited.
And Al's eyes glow, which only means business.
I love that. This was definitely an episode where like before this I kind of forgot or like didn't realize like, oh, Al is actually super awesome and
such a good fighter.
And I mean,
he knows as much as Ed does.
Yeah, he does. And you just kind of forget about that until you see this and you're like, oh, things are about to go down.
I cannot wait for the next episode.
Yes.
But that is the end of this one. And we're gonna mention a fun little bonus comic that was at the end of this volume. And it was Alice saving Heinkel. And Heinkel asks why Al would help him. And Al emphatically replies, it's because Heinkel's a cat.
Yes, I loved that. There was a lot of fun.
There were so many
bonus ones. Yeah, I will. I was supposed to post some like a few weeks ago, and
it's okay. You're behind on Instagram. I'm behind on YouTube. We'll be behind together.
Yeah.
But moving on, animation expertise. We've already stated our gripes with this episode. So Ed looked different in the beginning. The others did too. I think Mustang did as well, but maybe a different animation director took over for a little bit. I didn't notice anything in the credits, and honestly, I wasn't paying too much attention to the credits before, but I mean, it can happen in a longer series where you have to get somebody else in to cover, so that could be why Ed and Mustang had like rounder looking faces, I think. They kind of looked like their 2003 versions, so maybe they got one of the old animators to come back for a little bit. I kind of did like how Ed's eyes were animated, at least. They were sharper, I guess. But yeah, that plus the errors made for like this trippy experience.
Yes. It was a good episode, but yeah,
we won't focus on too much,
and it didn't. Some rough moments.
Yeah, it didn't influence our view of this episode when we first watched it, and it's not influencing our decision now because we still liked it.
Yeah. And then we also just wanted to briefly just talk about Al deciding to use this stone. I don't know, share our thoughts about it. I personally, like, I am okay with it because, like they said, like, he's not using it for himself. He's using it to help other people. And it's also, like, the souls that are in that stone, like, I think they're, like, stuck there. Like, they can't go anywhere until they've been used. And I think they would want to be used for something good. And it also reminded me of like this kind of, it's a similar situation to like when Ed used it to free Ling and himself and Envy. Like he was using it to help others.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't they wouldn't make one to use it for that purpose. Like it's there.
We were talking about being stuck in the stone, the souls being stuck, kind of like a purgatory situation.
Yeah.
I personally am a fan of when characters stick to their morals no matter what. Like, I like when they make a decision and they stick to it. So when he was first offered the stone, I was like, no! And then I realized what he could do with it. Yes!
Yeah.
I want to see him win. And I don't think this is technically going against his morals, but he's definitely going to have to talk about it with Ed after the fact, and he's probably going to feel some level of guilt at least. But
yeah, it is. I mean, I like when characters are faced with these really hard decisions that like force, and they're kind of like backed into a corner where it's like, okay, do you stick to your morals and end up, hurting more people, or do you bend a little to save others? And to me, I'm more of a bend a little to save others.
Yeah, lives are on the line here if they don't stop Kimblee and Pride. So I do think using the stone isn't a bad thing. It is in the right hands. I think anything in the right hands can be used for good, just as anything in the wrong hands can be used for evil.
Yeah.
That's philosophy for you. Okay, moving on to story elements.
And that's all, folks.
Yeah, that's all, folks. So for the story, your own creation turning against you. With this zombie apocalypse, we've seen the classic theme of monster movies play out. It's like, I've created something magnificent. It's alive, and it eats them.
Yep. Classic.
Just gotta, don't tempt fate, and don't try to trick the laws of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Meg, I'm looking at you.
What did I do?
If you were an alchemist, be honest, would you ever try human transmutation just because it's like, no one's been able to solve it? I could be the one. I'm a researcher.
No, just because of like the human soul element, I would not try it.
And because of faith, too. Like,
yeah. Morally, not right.
There you go, folks. If there's a zombie apocalypse, Meg was not behind it.
Yeah. That's all we got. So what was your favorite line of the episode?
Mine came from Olivier when she was talking to the soldier. She was trying to get his forces to back down, and he refused. She said, so you do have some metal, twisted though it may be. I really like that comeback. And what was your favorite line?
Mine, I actually don't know who mine came from. Some random soldier. When Buccaneer was attacking the soldiers, Mustang hears over the radio, "It's a bear with the mohawk."
I love how Risa was like, "Oh, that sounds like Buccaneer."
Yep. They right away knew who it was, and this awesome. It made me laugh. All right, what did we learn in this episode?
We learned that sometimes you have to make a hard call to save people. Do you go against your moral code? And it's kind of like there's that train analogy where it's an ethical dilemma with no clear right answer. So, like, do you save the one person on the train tracks or the four people over on the other side? Like, direct the train to hit one or the other. Or if you're like that one kid in the vine, you take the one person over to the other side and run over all of them.
Yes. And we actually had a good discussion about that the other day. Anyway, I'm going with the logical answer. Anyway.
I don't ever want to be in a position to answer that.
No, you said that the 5 people would die because you would like take so long to make a decision that it would just hit them. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then who pushed the story forward in this episode?
Al did for deciding to use the stone, and Heinkel for bringing the stone.
All right. That's all we got for this episode. Follow us on Instagram. Check out our YouTube channel. Megan has been posting. She added some more videos to our channel. And next week we will have some special guests, plural.
Yeah. And we will also have a bonus episode coming out fairly soon because there's a new intro and outro.
Oh, yes. Yes, that'll actually come out
hopefully
Friday
the end of
this week.
End of the week.
All right. Bye.
See you later.